top story tonight, after days of back and forth, the United States President Donald Trump has made his biggest U-turn. He has pulled out of the meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The meeting that was supposed to happen on the 12th of June in Singapore now stands cancelled. A statement released by the White House reads, and I'm quoting, "Sadly, based on the tremendous anger and open hostility displayed in your most recent statement, I felt it is inappropriate at this time to have this long-planned meeting. Let this letter serve to represent that the Singapore summit for the good of both parties, but to the detriment of the world, will not take place." The statement also issues a veiled threat to North Korea. It says, and I quote again, "You talk about your nuclear capabilities, but ours are so massive and powerful that I pray to God that they will never be used." That's classic Donald Trump for you. Pinning the blame squarely on North Korea, the United States said that North Korea has lost a great opportunity for lasting peace and great prosperity and wealth. Trump went on to say that this missed opportunity is a sad moment in history. The decision to call off the summit comes a day after North Korean official lashed out at U.S. Vice President Mike Pence. He called him a political dummy. Pyongyang had also warned of a nuclear confrontation with the United States if the talks were to fail. Listen in.
He has demonstrated an enormous capacity to lead his country and his team. So I don't think that's it. And frankly, I don't really know that I want to speculate as to why it is they took the actions, because I don't think we know. What I am hopeful is that we can continue to have conversations and put this back on track so that we can get to a place where we can achieve the outcome. I think it's worth. We talk a lot about summits and deals and the like. It's not about the deal. It's about the outcome. Right? It's about achieving this permanent physical change and transformation that will have the opportunity to change the world. And it is a corollary to that is a fundamental change in North Korea that would lead North Korea to have this opportunity for prosperity and good things, all the things that their neighbors to the south have. There will have to be a deal to get us to that point. But we shouldn't spend all our time thinking about the deal.
Let's go straight to our correspondent, Andrea Arenas. He's joining us from Washington, D.C., and we'll then open this to our special panel of guests this evening. Stephen Golub, international affairs expert with us from California. Dr. Robert Edwin Kelly, who is an expert on inter-Korean affairs with us from Busan in South Korea. And Einar Tangen, political and economic expert from Beijing in China. Good evening to all of you. Andrea, let me begin with you. What have you picked up from the White House? What prompted this cancellation? Has the Trump administration given any specific reasons beyond the open hostility exhibited by North Korea?
We are still waiting for the White House for a press conference that should happen at any moment, and we should have more details on the reasons that prompted this cancellation. However, it's a formal cancellation of a meeting that had been in the works for months now. President Trump and the White House did release this letter this morning, citing tremendous hostility and anger, and the particular reason being what happened during the past 12 to 24 hours. The comments on Vice President Mike Pence, citing him as ignorant and stupid, saying that this was after Vice President Pence went on an interview, a televised interview, where he said that relations with North Korea would end just like the ones ended with Libya if North Korea did not reach an agreement with the United States. Now, just moments ago in Congress, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was testifying, and he did say that the Trump administration was looking for a complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. This is something that was not necessarily the case for North Korea, or perhaps they were looking at a more progressively denuclearizing the peninsula, not necessarily going into it all at once. Now, he did say, however, that that America as well as President Trump were ready for these talks. That was when he was asked if this move made America stronger or weaker. And he also did say that the reason for this was that North Korea was not cooperating in the arrangements and setting up and preparation setting up this meeting.
Sure. Dr. Robert Kelly, are you surprised that Donald Trump has pulled out?
Not especially. Things were going pretty off the rails in the last couple of weeks. The Trump administration hadn't really organized this particularly well. There was a lot of conflicting information and messaging discipline coming from the White House. I think the White House had sky-high expectations that were unjustified, the Nobel Prize thing and all that kind of stuff. The North Koreans were almost certainly never going to give up all their nuclear weapons. They spent 40 years developing these things. It would have been simply astonishing if they had given them up after 9 weeks. It would have been better if the president had, managed expectations to something like a freeze from the North Koreans, but he did not, and the North Koreans eventually pushed back, and so here we are.
Right. I'm told you have to leave, so I'm going to ask you a couple of more questions, and I request the other guests to wait. Dr. Kelly, how do you expect Kim Jong-un to respond now? Will he feel shortchanged that he released the American hostages, that he apparently destroyed a nuclear testing facility, and then he got nothing in return from the Americans? The talks were cancelled.
Right. I think the hostage release wasn't a particularly big concession on the northern side. They were hostages, and the North Koreans have given up American hostages in the past. The test site that was destroyed was, many people think, sort of corrupted from previous tests before. If there had been another one, there was concern there might be something like a North Korean Chernobyl. I think the real issue that the North Koreans will react very badly to is the implicit nuclear threat that the president made in his letter. That's what I'm really concerned about, because the North Koreans just don't respond to that kind of stuff very well. We know that the North Koreans tend to counterpunch when they're threatened, and a nuclear threat is pretty over the top. And so, yeah, I think this is going to get very, not very bad, but bad in the next week or so.
So what happens then to peace talks and the hope of rapprochement between the two Koreas and between America and North Korea? And if it's a loss for everyone, would you say that it's a bigger loss for North Korea than the Americans?
I think this is going to get kicked back to the South Koreans. Moon Jae-in, the president of South Korea, Moon Jae-in, has really emphasized negotiation with the North Koreans. He's made this sort of the centerpiece of his career now for the last 25 years. He's certainly the one who's pushed this very hard, and now it's really up to him to bridge the gap. He tried to do that in Washington, I think, yesterday. Moon Jae-in is supposed to meet the North Koreans again in the fall. He's supposed to go to Pyongyang. So that doesn't mean that the door to diplomacy is completely shut. He can actually go up there and try to get some kind of deal. And maybe the cancellation today is actually just a postponement. If Donald Trump and Kim can meet in 3 to 6 months or something like that, after some staff work has been done to create a framework, so this isn't quite so thrown together. I mean, this has been very sort of disorganized in the last couple of weeks. That doesn't mean it has to be completely canceled, but it could be postponed, and there could be staff work and diplomacy done in order to put this all together so it's a little bit clearer what the two sides are negotiating on. And I think that's what Moon is probably going to try to do, is keep this alive so that it doesn't go back to where we were 6 months ago with fire and fury and war threats and all that.
Dr. Stephen Golub, the only silver lining from this development, Donald Trump isn't getting the Nobel Peace Prize in a hurry. Did you expect this to happen?
I would echo and defer to Dr. Kelly's expertise in terms of everything he said. It made a lot of sense to me. Donald Trump certainly got himself into this at least temporary mess by making the rather mercurial decision to say, yes, let's meet and work out the details later of what this summit will be and what an agreement might be. That's not the way statecraft usually works. That's not the way summits between world leaders usually work. One thing I think I'd add to the whole calculation of what's going on here is you have to bear in mind that two of Trump's top foreign policy advisors, his national security advisor, John Bolton, especially, and also his Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, have been very hawkish historically on North Korea in terms of maybe seeking a military solution, and that in addition to perhaps being played by Kim Jong-un to some extent in the lead up to these negotiations, in terms of Kim coming across as a beneficent figure, willing to negotiate, Trump may have been played by his national security advisor, John Bolton, in terms of either whispering in his ear or making his public statements, Bolton's statements, about a Libya model, which probably horrified the North Koreans, since the Libyan dictator ended up, after giving up his nuclear program several years later, ended up being deposed by his own people, possibly simply because he didn't have nuclear weapons. So there's a lot going on here, but I think one fundamental factor is Donald Trump's shortcomings as a world leader and someone capable of negotiating something in ways that go beyond the way a New York City real estate magnate might negotiate matters.
Einar Tangen, what do you think triggered this? Did Donald Trump develop cold feet? Was he just looking for an easy exit because his vice president being called a political pawn or whatever it was that he was called wasn't such a bad term given the history of these two leaders?
Well, I think you're right there. I mean, being called a political dummy is far from being called a rocket man and all sorts of belittling comments that Donald Trump has made in the past. But really what you see here is, and I defer to my two previous colleagues, I think they're exactly right, but Donald Trump is flailing right now. He's really beset by a lot of issues. Things with China did not go very well. He is really facing it with Europe over Iran. And yet he seems intent on...
I'm sorry to interrupt, Einar. I'll come back to you. Donald Trump making a statement right now.
Singapore on June 12th. Well, many things can happen, and a great opportunity lies ahead, potentially. I believe that this is a tremendous setback for North Korea, and indeed a setback for the world. I've spoken to General Mattis and the Joint Chiefs of Staff and our military, which is by far the most powerful anywhere in the world, and has been greatly enhanced recently, as you all know, is ready if necessary. Likewise, I have spoken to South Korea and Japan, and they are not only ready should foolish or reckless acts be taken by North Korea, but they are willing to shoulder much of the cost of any financial burden, any of the costs associated by the United States in operations if such an unfortunate situation is forced upon us. Hopefully, positive things will be taking place with respect to the future of North Korea. But if they don't, we are more ready than we have ever been before. North Korea has the opportunity to end decades of poverty and oppression by following the path of denuclearization and joining the community of nations. And I hope that Kim Jong-un will ultimately do what is right, not only for himself, but perhaps most importantly, what's right for his people, who are suffering greatly and needlessly. All of the Korean people, North and South, deserve to be able to live together in harmony, prosperity, and peace. That bright and beautiful future can only happen when the threat of nuclear weapons is removed. No way it can happen otherwise. If and when Kim Jong-un chooses to engage in constructive dialogue and actions, I am waiting. In the meantime, our very strong sanctions, by far the strongest sanctions ever imposed, and maximum pressure campaign will continue, as it has been continuing. But no matter what happens and what we do, we will never, ever compromise the safety and security of the United States of America. I want to make that statement, feel very, very strongly about it. Our military, as you know, has been greatly enhanced. Will soon be at a level that it's never been before. Our approval of $700 billion this year and $716 billion next year, largely due to the help of a lot of the people with me today and standing right here, we appreciate. but we had to do that for our military, and we've done it. And hopefully everything's going to work out well with North Korea. And a lot of things can happen, including the fact that perhaps, and would wait, it's possible that the existing summit could take place or a summit at some later date. Nobody should be anxious. We have to get it right. Okay. With that being said, we have something else, which I have to tell you, all of you, Chairman, Mike, and everybody, it was a big deal until this came up. I don't know. Where's Mike Crapo? Where are you? Mike, congratulations. You did a great job, but it doesn't seem so important now. I don't know. But it is important. It's incredible. And it's incredible that you've done it, and you've done it in a very bipartisan way, which is very nice. Thank you. Thank you very much. But a very bipartisan way, Mike, and I want to congratulate you and everyone else. I'm going to read a few names because these people worked hard. This is all about the Dodd-Frank.
So that was Donald Trump explaining, and he said, and whatever it means, he said that hopefully positive things will be taking place with respect to the future of North Korea. That's the President of America speaking for you after having cancelled one of the biggest meetings he was scheduled to attend in this year. I'm sorry to have interrupted you, Einar, earlier. You were making a point about what could have triggered this, why Donald Trump decided at the last moment to call it off.
Well, quite frankly, we've just seen it. It's a kind of wag the dog moment. Donald Trump is flailing in terms of all sorts of lawsuits and investigations in the U.S. Things did not go very well with China. He has Europe enraged over the Iran deal and also these trade sanctions. At the moment, he's a little bit friendless, and I think he's trying to appear very strong. So this kind of gives him that opportunity. Unfortunately, I agree with my colleagues. This is not the way to lure North Korea into a summit talk. Playing the playground bully, or at least at most a kind of a mafia type figure. If you don't do this, bad things could happen, is not the way that you do diplomacy. I'm actually very, very surprised that he's going to this length. That statement in itself was not helpful. It's not going to bring these parties together. I think it's a great setback for everybody. I don't think that there was a lot of hope inside things, but inside having this kind of summit, because there's such a difference between the time frames. The U.S. said 6 months to a year, absolute denuclearization, verifiable, transparent, etc. And North Korea was upset by this idea of a Libya model, and they certainly were not going to give up the only leverage that they had.
Dr. Stephen Golub, did you think China have a role to play? Did it queer the pitch?
Is your question, did China have a role to play in this summit falling apart?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think so. It seems like this was really a product of the dynamic that had developed of a very, very poorly prepared summit meeting, where the expectations of the two sides just became increasingly apparent that their expectations were very far apart. There are two fundamental things to understand just in terms of the context of what's going on right now. Number one is that the demands or the goals of these two sides are in complete contradiction to each other. North Korea is not going to give up its nuclear weapons, and the U.S. is insisting that it completely give up its nuclear weapons. The other thing that your viewers need to understand about Donald Trump that goes beyond but includes what's going on right now with this failed summit planning is that the man has no knowledge of or really deep interest in foreign policy, is even incapable, and that's not too strong a word, incapable of absorbing detailed information. He does not read policy briefs. There have been repeated reports of that coming out, whether it's a learning disability or whatever. So in terms of Trump dealing with the complexities and the challenges of relating to North Korea and trying to reach some kind of accommodation, avoiding war, he's in over his head. And I know that's a worrisome thing to say, but it's true. It's reflected, for example, in the statement we just heard, where he said South Korea and Japan will pick up the costs of apparently going to war. The last thing that South Korea is worried about right now is whether it has to pick up the costs of going to war. It's that millions of people, South Koreans, may die, and tens of thousands of Americans as well over there if there is a war. And Trump's statement just doesn't reflect any insight into that complex situation that he's in charge of dealing with.
Aina Tangin, what happens now? Can one still expect both sides to continue some sort of diplomatic engagement, given that both these two leaders are so hypersensitive and suffer from a persecution complex?
You're right on that. You couldn't really find two more thin-skinned individuals. I think really the move is going to be with China and South Korea. They're going to be looking for some face-saving way of drawing these people back together, especially Moon Jae-in. He has put a lot of political capital on this particular, arranging the summit. He was the one who was playing post office, whispering to each side what he thought they wanted to hear in order to make this happen. His belief, as we said, is based on protecting his people. He has 1/4 of his population within range of artillery pieces, never mind nuclear weapons, artillery pieces. So at that basis, yes, I think you can look to Moon Jae-in to try to figure something out. I don't think you're going to see any movement either by North Korea or Donald Trump.
We haven't heard the last of this, of course. Aina Tangin, Stephen Golub, thanks very much for joining us on this discussion. Pakistan's economy depends on China. It has received investments worth billions from the Chinese, and now it is realizing that there are no free lunches. China has begun cracking the whip on Pakistan's terror factories, and it has started with Hafiz Saeed, the mastermind of the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks. Last month, there was a meeting between China's President Xi Jinping and Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahid Khaqan Abbasi at the WION Forum. That's where Xi Jinping reportedly told Mr. Abbasi to get rid of Hafiz Saeed. The suggestion was that he be moved to a West Asian country. Basically, China wanted Hafiz Saeed away from the limelight. The government of Pakistan is yet to decide on the so-called recommendation. Not that they are the decision makers, so I'll amend that and say that Rawalpindi, the Pakistan army, is yet to decide. Meanwhile, Mr. Abbasi's aides have leaked this story and all hell broke loose. China, not surprisingly, has dismissed these reports, calling them baseless and shocking. But it makes perfect sense for China to issue an order like this to Pakistan. It has been facing the heat on Pakistan's behalf for sheltering global designated terrorists. The United States, remember, has a $10 million bounty on Hafiz Saeed's head. Pakistan has been put on the grey list of the Financial Action Task Force. Hafiz Saeed's terrorist organization, the Jamaat ad-Dawa, has been banned by this UN watchdog. Islamabad has been given 3 months to take concrete steps and to ensure that financing to terror groups is cut off. None of it has happened. Now, the timing of this revelation is also curious. Reports say that on Tuesday, Hafiz Saeed met some journalists over iftar. He reportedly told them that China would not want to ban him or move him out of the country. He may have spoken too soon. And why did he say it at all? The question we are asking on Gravitas is this: why has China woken up to the Hafiz Saeed problem now? Is this the impact of the India-China reset? Think about it. Meanwhile, Hafiz Saeed has no dearth of high-profile supporters either. Former Pakistan President Nawaz Sharif continues to call him a humanitarian worker. He says Hafiz Saeed sends volunteers into Kashmir, these are his words, to fight the Indian army. More importantly, General Musharraf has also said, in almost as many words, that non-state Pakistani actors were involved in the Mumbai terror attack. Tonight, we bring you an exclusive interview with the former president and army chief of Pakistan. I want to start, sir, with what's been making headlines in your country, in Pakistan. Nawaz Sharif's stunning admission. He said that 26/11 was orchestrated and carried out by non-state actors in Pakistan, and the establishment has been dragging its feet on the case. Is it time that the government and the army of Pakistan dropped this farce and admitted that this attack, the worst attack on Indian soil, was carried out from Pakistan?
Well, I think this is absolutely wrong. We shouldn't take whatever Nawaz Sharif is saying on its merit at all. I don't think that is the fact.
What is the fact then, sir? Was Ajmal Kasab not a Pakistani? Were his handlers not Pakistani?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, and I don't know. I mean, what is Ajmal Kasab? He's an ordinary man. You give him 2 slaps and he'll tell you everything.
He's dead. He came from Faridkot in Pakistan, and that has been established.
You can make him do anything. You can make him say anything.
He's dead, sir.
These things happen. Well, he is. I mean, are you for a moment agreeing with what Kulbhushan Yadav is, who we've got, that he's your agent, that he's been doing sabotage in Pakistan? You're not saying that. You're not admitting, isn't it?
I think you're mixing up 2 cases. I'm talking about the 2611 case, sir, and there's been a pile of proof handed over to Pakistan. Now a former Prime Minister, 3-time Prime Minister of Pakistan, is saying that Pakistani agents were involved. You cannot take his word lightly, only because you're saying you do not think that Pakistan was involved.
Yes, no, it was not involved as a government. But if somebody on his own, some organization or some group carried out something, it's not the responsibility of Pakistan government. You throw the blame on Pakistan government and the Pakistan army. And the person you are quoting is also trying to, at this moment, malign the army and the establishment.
So you are at one level admitting that there might be players beyond the control of the Pakistan army and the government who may have had a role to play in the Mumbai attack. Having said that, let me ask you then, is it not the duty and responsibility of an elected government, a responsible country, to bring such people to book? Not a single person has been put behind bars pending trial in this case.
Listen, now you have got involved in an issue which RAW does equally, if not more, in Pakistan. And you just want to talk about and malign Pakistan, that we are the only culprits and you are angels, you don't do anything. So please understand that this is happening, and please also understand that since 1990, when you cracked down in Kashmir, there have been volunteer groups here, people wanting to go into Kashmir to defend their brethren and give their lives for that. This has been the situation in Pakistan.
I don't know
no
why
government made them.
Sir,
they came up, they sprung up themselves. They are prepared to go to Kashmir.
I am giving you a specific case of the worst terror attack on Indian soil perpetrated by people in Pakistan.
No, well, okay. And when I quoted Yadav, you suddenly said, no, you're not talking of that. Why are you not talking of it?
I will talk about Jadhav.
I want to talk of him.
Okay.
Because he is specific. Sorry?
I will talk about Jadhav. I will talk about Jadhav. Let me tell you.
You should talk about both. On that side, we don't know. We don't know who did.
No. I'll tell you. A former ISI chief has said that Pakistan should have returned Kulbhushan Jadhav at the right price. What does that mean, sir? Another very senior person making a statement, very embarrassing for Pakistan. Does Pakistan abduct foreigners for ransom?
Well, I don't know who this person is, what he's saying. At this moment, there is certainly some turmoil going on within Pakistan, and there is a total difference of views on many issues. So I don't know this man which party, which group he belongs, and why he said anything of that sort.
He's a former ISI chief. Do you at least agree that Kulbhushan Jadhav, since you want to talk about him, should have been given consular access by Pakistan? That's plain violation of international convention.
Well, no comments. I don't know the exact diplomatic protocol on this. Could have been given, yes. But later on, I think the relatives were allowed to meet him.
And we all know the circumstances of how that happened. But let's talk about the political scene in Pakistan. And coming back to the 2611 attack and the perpetrator, he's been making giant strides even though...
No, what were the circumstances?
The circumstances were that Kulbhushan Jadhav's family was heckled, sir. It is extremely shameful for anyone to be treated in this manner by state agencies. The lesser said, the better.
That is what he says. That is what RAW does. Listen, that is what RAW does, and pollutes your mind. No, there is no video at all.
I have seen a video. I'll show it to you. I will send it to you.
So these things are all cooked up to malign ISI, to malign everything.
Kulbhushan Jadhav's family was given access to meet him under dubious circumstances, and they were treated very badly by the system. I don't want to get into a slanging match with you. I don't want to argue on something that I know is factually correct.
Who says that?
I've seen pictures.
I'm
the world
asking.
has seen pictures, sir.
I'm asking you, who said that? Your RAW? Your people said that.
Pictures beamed out of Pakistan.
Pictures get monitored. Don't you know that? They can be doctored. So,
but these pictures came out of the Pakistan government and establishment. Did
they can all be doctored.
Show themselves in bad
They can be doctored by RAW.
You have a lot of faith in RAW's abilities.
RAW doctored them and gave them to you. Okay. And you are misled.
I suggest you go back to see those pictures.
Yes.
If you've not seen
them,
I
have faith in the ISI abilities, but I also have faith in RAW abilities.
Don't miss the full interview with Pervez Musharraf. Meanwhile, a new trend is taking over the internet. Take a look at this health challenge that has got some of the most popular names in India up and kicking.
It is often said that health is wealth. But how many of us actually focus on fitness? Most of us sleep at odd hours, barely go for a run, bite into unhealthy snacks, and are stationed at office for hours at a stretch. But it seems that India is now ready to take fitness seriously. Indian celebrities and politicians have taken up a new fitness challenge, #HumFit to inspire people to lead a healthy life. The fitness challenge was originally started by Information and Broadcasting Minister Rajyavardhan Singh Rathore. Rathore tweeted a video doing push-ups and urged people to take up the challenge and post their videos.
आइए हम सब मिलकर एक फिट इंडिया बनाएं। हम फिट तो इंडिया फिट।
In no time, the fitness challenge spread on the internet like wildfire. Politicians, sportspersons and Bollywood actors were quick to post their own videos.
हम भी कोशिश करते हैं कि ऑफिस में कहीं भी रहे हम फिट रहें, उसके लिए कुछ एक्सरसाइज कर सकते हैं।
Here's what Union Minister Kiran Rijiju shared.
वो ज़्यादा प्रेशर नहीं करते हुए आराम से 10, 12, 15 इतना आपको सुविधा है।
Hello sir, I accept your challenge. So here's my favorite core workout.
Indian cricket captain Virat Kohli shared a video doing 20 spider planks.
Try that out.
Hey Babs, I accept your fitness challenge and now I'm going to show you all what is my favorite workout and hope that you try it out.
The challenge was also taken up by Bollywood actors such as Anushka Sharma,
Stay fit, India.
Hrithik Roshan,
Hrithik sir, I accept your challenge and here's a little basic fundamental move I do to keep myself functionally fit.
Tiger Shroff and Ranveer Shori. What's more, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi too has accepted the fitness challenge from Captain Kohli. When Indians are inspiring each other to stay fit, how can WION not be part of such a good cause? Therefore, we also decided to take up the challenge and urge people to stay fit.
A healthy body is the key to a healthy mind. But the fact is that we barely do anything to keep ourselves fit on a daily basis. But as we say, it's never too late to take up a good habit. So we say, eat healthy and exercise every day. And yes, don't make fitness a resolution. In fact, make it a lifestyle change because hum fit, to India fit. And WION thanks all of you for the fitness challenge.